Some moments don't just break your heart, they reveal that it was already cracked in places you never even noticed. For me, that moment came on a school day. At 6:34 a.m., my phone rang, and after that, everything fell apart. My name is Lauren Bennett, and this is the story of how I lost my son and my family in the same week. But this isn't just a story about grief. It's a story about betrayal. It's the story of watching the people you love choose beachside cocktails over a child's funeral. It's the story of realizing that sometimes blood relation is just paper. My son Noah was 12, bright, funny, loved video games, hated vegetables, and had a wild dream of becoming a scientist who invents a robot that does your homework. He told everyone that he was my whole world. His father Daniel died when Noah was just 5. A heart attack, sudden, brutal, and from that day on, it was just Noah and me. We weren't rich, but we had joy. 1,000 tiny joys that made life feel full. Pajama pancake Sundays, blanket forts, Friday movie nights with too much popcorn. We were a team. And my family, well, I thought they had our backs. My parents Paul and Janice lived 15 minutes away, retired, church-going. They were always reminding me how proud they were of me for raising such a good boy on my own. Then there was my younger brother, Mason, married to Erica, a couple who always posted photos of themselves in matching outfits on Instagram and called each other king and queen in the captions. A few years ago, Mason lost his job and couldn't make rent, so I offered them the apartment above my garage, rent-free, just until they got on their feet. That was 4 years ago. I paid for Mason's car repairs, bought groceries when their second baby was born, even helped cover Erica's dental surgery last year, because that's what family does, right? Or at least, that's what I believed back then. The day everything changed started like any other. Noah had been sick for a few days, just a cough and a slight fever. The doctor said it was a seasonal virus. Let him rest, keep him hydrated, monitor the fever, he told me. Nothing serious. But then at 3:12 a.m., I was woken by Noah whispering, "Mom, I can't breathe." Barefoot and terrified, I rushed him to the emergency room. His fever had spiked, his oxygen was dangerously low. Everything was happening so fast that I can barely remember signing the forms before they took him away. 6 hours later, Mitchell came out with an expression that tells you everything before he says a word. "Mrs. Bennett, I'm so sorry. His lungs just gave out." There was nothing more we could do. Just like that, my son was gone. My legs gave out right there in the hospital corridor. And there was only one thought in my head. This can't be happening. Not with Noah. Not with my son. But it did. The next few hours were a blur of paperwork, sobbing, and phone calls I never thought I'd have to make. The first person I called was my mom. Her voice was groggy. "Lauren, it's not even 7 a.m. What's wrong?" "Mom, it's Noah. He's gone." There was silence on the other end of the line, then a soft sigh. "Oh, Lauren, I don't even know what to say. I need you," I sobbed. "Can you and Dad come?" She paused. "Honey, today's really not a good day. We're flying out in a few hours for our trip. You know, the Mexico cruise we booked months ago." I blinked. "Mom, my son just died." "I know, sweetie, but the tickets are non-refundable. We spent nearly $8,000 on this trip. It's been planned for ages. Maybe when we get back, we can help you with everything." I didn't know what to say. I just hung up, and then I called Mason. "Damn, Lauren, that's horrible," he said, "but we're literally packing right now. The kids are so excited. Erica's been stressed for weeks. This vacation is a chance for her to reset." "You're not serious." "Come on, Laura. You know how important this trip is. It's just a week. Just do the funeral stuff without us, okay? We'll be with you in spirit." They didn't come. Nobody did. Not for the funeral planning. Not for picking out the coffin. Not for the endless, impossible decisions a mother should never have to make. I stood in the funeral home alone, looking at the catalog of child-sized coffins. Alone. I chose the smallest one I could bear to look at. Noah's funeral service was on a Monday morning. Only a handful of people came. His teacher, my boss, our elderly neighbor who always waved to him from across the street. It was quiet, it was simple, and it was the loneliest moment of my life. While they were burying my child, my family was snorkeling in Cancun, drinking cold margaritas and taking selfies under palm trees. That night, I sat in Noah's room for hours, I didn't cry. I was beyond crying. I just stared at the ceiling and thought, this is it. They showed you who they really are. And in that moment of brutal clarity, I made a decision. They abandoned me when I needed them most. It was time to return the favor. I didn't have much, but it was enough. I worked nights as a nurse in the pediatric unit, which meant Aiden spent many evenings with his nana, my mom. Diane, she'd make him apple crumble every Thursday, and he'd brag about it at school like it was Michelin-starred food. And my younger sister Courtney, well, Aiden idolized her. She was the cool aunt who taught him how to play video games and sneak extra marshmallows into his hot cocoa. So naturally, when the accident happened, I expected them to hold me, to hold each other. I wanted to scream. I carried Aiden inside of me. I held his tiny hand during his shots, during his nightmares, when he was afraid of the lightning. I'm the one who chose the coffin. I'm the one who was forced to choose between oak and mahogany when I could still smell his shampoo on his pillow. You can't say it's too much, but instead, I just said, okay, and hung up the phone. Because what else was there to say? They didn't come because they didn't want to feel it. Not the loss, not the regret, not the reflection of their own coldness in the eyes of a grieving mother. And honestly, that's when my grief started to turn into something else. Not anger, not yet. Off to clarity. See. Grief strips everything down to the bone. It shows you who is real and who is just playing a role. And my family, they were just acting in a play they weren't willing to finish. I sat in Aiden's room. Everything was still there. His bag was in the corner, half unzipped, a math worksheet peeking out. His dinosaur pajamas were neatly folded on his bed. He always did that, folded them into a perfect little square before putting on a new pair, said it made him feel organized, like a scientist. There was a pencil on his desk, just one, a blunt one. He always refused to sharpen them unless they were absolutely needed. Why waste good wood, Mom? He'd joke. My little environmentalist. I sat in his desk chair and just looked at the small trophies lined up on the shelf above his bed. Best reader, the Kindness Award, third place in the science fair. They weren't big accolades, not things you bragged about at a cocktail party, but they were everything to him, and they were everything to me. And yet, the people who were supposed to care about these things didn't. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even try. I just sat with every memory of him, every bedtime story, every scraped knee, every laugh and tantrum. And Mom, I drew you a picture. And as the sun started to rise, golden light spilling through the window, I finally said it out loud. They don't have the right to grieve him. It was the first time I'd let myself feel that. The idea had hovered in my mind before, quietly, shamefully, as if I wasn't allowed to judge another's grief. But now it rang like a bell in my chest. They didn't deserve him, not his warmth, not his memory, not the gift of knowing he was a gentle, curious, brilliant little boy. I sat back on the couch at home, numb. That's when the group photo dropped, a glossy beachside photo of my entire family, laughing in the sun, holding coconut drinks like they were in a Sandals resort ad. The caption, "Family is everything." I swear to why I didn't cry, not then. I laughed. I laughed so hard I almost fell off the couch, because what else could I do? I mean, the irony was practically slapping me. Family's everything. They weren't there when everything fell apart, when the one thing I needed was for them to stand beside me as I buried my child. That's when something in me broke, and it wasn't in a bad way, not in a breaking down way, but in a breaking open way. A stranger came up to me, an older woman, maybe 70, and she gently took my hand. "I didn't know Aiden personally," she said, "but I read about him in the local paper, and I just wanted to say you honored him with every word." I nodded, thanked her, though my body felt like it would crumble. That night, I sat in Aiden's room alone. His bed was still made. His favorite books were still stacked on the bedside table. The little glow-in-the-dark stars we'd put on his ceiling years ago were still stubbornly clinging to their spots. I curled up on his bed, clutching one of his old hoodies. I took in the faint scent of his shampoo, the citrusy smell of childhood. And then, my phone chimed, a notification from Facebook. My sister had gone live. With the curious half-numbness that comes with grief, I tapped on it. There she was, lounging on a beach chair in Cancun. Music played in the background, a cold drink in her hand. She was laughing about a waiter getting her order wrong. I stared at the screen in disbelief. No mention of Aiden, no apology, just sun, sand, and soulless laughter. Then, I noticed something worse. In the comments, Someone asked, "Didn't your sister's son just die?" Courtney replied with a laughing emoji and wrote, "Yeah, but Emily is always so dramatic. I mean, kids die every day. Life goes on." I dropped the phone. My heart didn't just break, it shattered into a million pieces. And that was the moment something in me changed. I was no longer just grieving. I was done with the quiet, heartbroken victim act. Done hoping to magically find empathy where there was none. Done allowing the people who called themselves family to rewrite reality to protect their own peace, while erasing the very existence of my son. They wanted life to go on. I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea I never drank, scrolling through my phone, and that's when I saw it. Another post. This time from my brother. A group selfie, standing in front of a water park in Florida. Everyone in sunglasses and swimsuits. The caption read, "Making memories. Life's too short to be sad all the time." That was it. That was the moment grief transformed into fury. Not loud, dramatic fury. Not throwing things at the wall fury. It was cold, focused, quiet, like the moment before a storm when the air stills and the clouds hang heavy overhead. I turned my phone off and stared at the wall for a long time. Then I got up, went to a room, and opened the box I kept tucked away in the back of his closet. Inside were all the letters I'd written to him, notes for his lunchbox, birthday cards, even a silly poem I'd written when he broke his arm and had a cast on for 6 weeks. On top of the pile was the letter he had written to me last Christmas. He had made it in school. It was folded in a little red envelope covered in glitter glue. It said, "To Mom, I love you more than Mario Kart, even more than pizza. You are the best mom in the whole world. Love, Aiden." I clutched that note to my chest and sat there in silence, rocking slightly, as if I could hold still enough for time to go backward. But it didn't, so I made a choice. If my family couldn't honor my son, I would, alone, if I had to. A week later, I packed a small suitcase and flew to the same city where my family had been on vacation. Not to confront them, not yet. I went because Aiden loved aquariums. He had once begged me to take him to a specific marine life center there, said it had a glass tunnel where you could walk inside the ocean. We never got the chance to go, so I went. I bought a ticket, walked through that tunnel, and imagined him beside me, his tiny hand pressed against the glass, excitedly pointing at the sharks overhead. I whispered, "We made it, buddy." And for the first time in weeks, I smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a small one, but it was real. Because in that moment, I realized something important. Grief doesn't just take away, it also gives you a new kind of clarity, a brutal, honest kind of clarity that strips away every illusion and shows you what really matters. Family isn't blood. It's presence, it's loyalty, it's showing up in the hard times, when it hurts, when it's inconvenient. And those people smiling by the pool on Facebook, they weren't my family, they were strangers with shared DNA. So I stopped apologizing. I stopped hoping they would magically feel guilt or regret. Instead, I focused on remembering my son, his laugh, his fascination with dinosaurs and making forts out of couch cushions, the way he always said "I love you" twice, just to make sure I heard it the first time. That was real, that was mine. When I got back, I started volunteering at a grief support center for parents who had lost children. I met moms and dads whose stories were just like mine, some worse, some better, but all marked by the same hollow ache. We cried together, we even laughed. Because sometimes grief is funny, like how you forget your keys 10 times in a row or start crying at a cereal commercial because it reminds you of Saturday mornings. These people, they became my family. After a meeting one night, a mom gave me a small paper heart with her daughter's name on it. "Keep this somewhere safe," she said. "We keep each other's children alive in memory." So I made one for Aiden too, and I still carry it in my wallet today. The last message I got from my biological family was from my sister. It was short. She wrote, "You've become so bitter. It's not healthy. You should just move on." I didn't reply because I wasn't bitter. I was awake. And once you're awake, truly awake, you stop begging for love from people who are incapable of giving it. You start loving yourself enough to walk away. You know what's strange? It wasn't the silence that finally broke me. Not the empty seats at the funeral. Not even the echo of my own footsteps as I walked into the church alone, holding Aiden's photo like a shield. No. It was a memory. Just a small, innocent memory. I was in Aiden's room a few days after the funeral, The sun had started to shine again, though I hadn't told it to. His bag was still on the floor, unused, half-zipped. Inside was a note he had written to himself for a school project, one of those funny future me letters, and it said, "Dear future Aiden, I hope you're still kind, and you're making Mom smile every day." That's what broke me, because I hadn't smiled since the accident, and I wondered, would I ever smile again? I just collapsed right there on the floor, next to his bag, my face pressed into the carpet fibers, and I just sobbed. Not cinematic sobbing, not delicate or poetic. It was raw, ugly, my entire body shook, because kindness, that beautiful quality my son so treasured, was a language my own family no longer spoke. They didn't come to the funeral, they didn't call afterward, didn't even send a message on his birthday, which passed in a whispered quiet and forgotten. But you know what they did do? They sent me an invitation. Yes. 3 months after Aiden died, my sister Courtney sent me an invite for her destination wedding in Santorini, with glittery fonts and champagne. Emojis. No note. No. How are you doing? No. Do you want to talk? Just pack your bags, bestie. Time to celebrate love in the Greek sun. I stared at that message for 10 full minutes without even blinking. And then I laughed. Truly laughed. For the first time in months. But it wasn't joy. It was the kind of laugh that comes right before you shatter. Bitter, hollow, the sound of someone who has sobbed their way to the other side and found only madness. See, Courtney wasn't just a sister. She was supposed to be my person, the one who stayed up with me through Aiden's stomach aches, the one who promised, "I'll always be there no matter what." But apparently, no matter what had a clause, a tiny disclaimer, and burying my son was the exception. So, I didn't go to the wedding, didn't send a gift, didn't RSVP. I deleted the invitation and blocked her number. For the first time in my life, I chose peace over family. A few days later, there was a knock at my door. It was unexpected. Most people text first, but something told me it wasn't a delivery. I peeked through the window and almost gasped. It was my father, the man who hadn't said a word to me since the day of the accident, the same man who had texted, "We're grieving in our own way." When I asked why he hadn't been at the funeral, I slowly opened the door. "Dad," I said, my voice flat. He looked old, as if the months hadn't been kind to him either. His shoulders were slumped, and his eyes, usually so stern, looked cloudy. "Hi, Emily," he said softly. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside, but I kept my arms folded. I wasn't ready for small talk. Not now. Maybe not ever. He sat on the couch, his hands shaking as he placed his phone face down on the coffee table. "I don't expect forgiveness," he started. "Good," I said, more sharply than I intended. He nodded, accepting it. "But I needed to see you," he continued, "to say something. I failed you." That was it. For words I never thought I would hear him say. "I was a coward," he confessed. "I didn't come to the funeral because I thought I would fall apart. I thought seeing that small coffin would kill me. But not going, that has been killing me every day." I remained silent. He went on. "I've watched every video of Aiden you've ever posted, every birthday clip, every funny moment. I've saved every single photo you ever sent me. And yet, when it mattered most, I didn't show up. I let my fear be louder than my love." I felt something ignite in my chest, not forgiveness, but maybe a flicker of understanding. "I'm not asking to be back in your life," he said. "But I will be outside this house every Saturday at 10 a.m. If you ever want to open the door, I'll be there. If you don't, I'll still be there, just in case." And with that, he stood, gave me a nod, and walked outside. True to his word, he has been here. Every Saturday. Sometimes I open the door, sometimes I don't, but he still shows up, and maybe that's what love looks like now. Not grand gestures, not perfect apologies, just showing up. Even in the hard times. The weeks passed. The funeral was over. The flowers had wilted, and the cold reality of silence settled like a fog over a forgotten street. But in that quiet, an unexpected thing happened. I started to heal. Not because time made it easier. I still woke up some mornings and looked back at the door, hoping Aiden would rush in, with messy hair and hungry for pancakes. I still reached for the grocery list and almost wrote down his favorite cereal. I still sat in the car and halfway expected to be picking him up from school. But in that silence, I found space. Space to feel. Space to remember. and most importantly, space to see things clearly. My family didn't just miss a funeral, they missed Aiden. They missed what he meant, they missed who he was, and they missed the opportunity to stand by the one person who needed them most, me. And you know what? That realization didn't break me anymore, because I finally understood something. Blood doesn't make a family, empathy does, presence does, loyalty does, and I wasn't alone, not really. There was Mrs. Whitaker, my elderly neighbor who brought over warm muffins every Sunday for a month, just in case you forget to eat, she'd say with a soft smile. There was Javier, the janitor at Aiden's school, who showed up in his only suit on the day of the funeral, clutching a tiny action figure Aiden had once given him. Your son, he said. He made everybody's day better, even mine. There were the moms from the PTA, I barely spoke to you, sending cards with handwritten memories of Aiden, his jokes, his kindness, how he once helped a little kid tie his shoe when no one was looking. There were strangers, literal strangers from an online support group for grieving parents, who would message me at 2 a.m. when the grief turned into a tidal wave. And slowly, painstakingly, piece by piece, these people wove a net beneath me. So, when I finally let go of my anger, when I finally decided I would not beg for validation from a family who had chosen sunburns over a graveside, I didn't fall. I landed, because real love, the kind that shows up, was still there. And one day, while going through Aiden's things, I found something I had forgotten about. It was a diary, just a cheap spiral-bound notebook, half filled with drawings and misspelled stories. But near the middle, in messy handwriting and blue ink, he had written, "My mom is my hero because she makes me feel good when I'm sad and she never lets me be alone." I cried for an hour, not because I was sad, but because in that one line, my son had given me back my purpose. He saw me, even if no one else did, and if he believed in me, then I could believe in myself too. So where am I now? I have cut off my family. Yes, cut off, not faded away, not taken space. I set a boundary. You don't come back from, because if you don't set a boundary after your child's funeral, when do you? I started volunteering at a local grief center, helping other parents navigate those first few weeks of loss, the rawest, most fragile days. I've met people who have lost more than I could ever imagine, and yet they still show up, still get out of bed, still choose to love, even when love leaves a mark. I've started to journal, to read, to heal, not moving on, moving forward. And I made myself a promise. If I ever feel that deep, aching loneliness, again that feeling of being abandoned by the people who were supposed to be there, I'll remember the truth. Love isn't proven by perfect words or matching blood. It's proven by actions. It's proven by who is standing beside you when the sky falls. Don't waste your energy begging people to care. Some people are just meant to be chapters, not the whole book. And sometimes, letting go of those people is the only way to make room for the ones who will rewrite your story with you. You can't control who walks out on you in your hardest moments, but you can control who you let back in. Grieve, heal, grow. And when you stand up from the wreckage, stand up knowing this. You survived the unimaginable. And those who didn't have the decency to stand by you in the storm, they don't deserve a seat at your table in the sun.